CAPSI podcast series, Conversations on African Philanthropy. This series on social movements in Africa was shot at the margins of the third Baraza in Accra. The Baraza is a product of the Zimbabwe Alliance, a project that the Conversations on African Philanthropy covered at the end of 2024. Social movements play huge roles in our society. At the same time, they face massive challenges and obstacles. In this series, we take a look at the different manifestations and typologies of social movements on the continent. The series is but a snapshot. More is needed to fully get a comprehensive grasp of social movements. Join us as we talk to actors from the DRC to Zambia, Malawi, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Ghana, and many more.
Welcome to another episode of our Conversations on African Philanthropy with me, Moyo. We are shooting this special episode and series on social movements at the margins of the Baraza, the third Baraza hosted by TrustAfrica here in Accra, Ghana. I'm excited this morning to be joined by Hagar, Eissa, the founder and CEO of Echoes of Freedom, but now Voices of Freedom. Let's start there and welcome to the Conversations.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a great honor and a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. And I want to make sure that he's recording this part, with the phone, because
It's okay. It's okay, don't worry.
Because that's what she really wants. So let's start there. Why Echoes of Freedom and the shift to Voices of Freedom?
So within the start of Echoes of Freedom, we look at, basically focuses on the support and raising voices of the political prisoners internationally. So when we thought of it, echoes, as if like they are the echo of the freedom that is being right now, because most of them were former political prisoners and then they got released, but now the voices, because we don't want this story only to be an echo, we want it to be a voice that is still going to be heard in our world today, day by day. These are very important topics that we need to discuss every single day. So that's where the inspiration of the Voices of Freedom comes from.
But let's take it back to you, Hagar, the person. Why set up a foundation? What inspires you? What is the political and economic climate in which you are setting up a foundation that is dedicated to political prisoners?
It's a very tough question to answer, but starting off with Sudan, that's where I come from. It's a country that has been going on for ages right now through dictatorship. And even the current war has been going on for 2 years on the clock. It's been very tough growing up there, seeing the injustice that's been happening for years, seeing our grandparents and then our parents and our generation. And we are also thinking of the coming generations who might intentionally go through this as well. So I think focusing on the voices of those political prisoners, because I see them as the defenders of the democracy that we need. And if they are not free to express their voice, if they're not free to be where they want to be, if they're not free to choose the person that they want to be the president, then why are we not helping them, right? Because I think they're the foundation for everything that we're going through in our countries or within even the continent of Africa in general, right? Democracy, as I mentioned a few days ago, that it's been known as a session, right? But no, democracy is more of a conversation that we need to have with ourselves and with our coming generations, between the future and the past as well. And there's always a question that whether democracy is not only whether democracy is still alive or not, it's about whether we have the courage and the motivation to keep it alive and thriving. So within the foundation of the Voices of Freedom, I try to sit with those, like these free souls that they have been going through a lot in their lives. They have families, people that they care about, and they also care about the society, right? So we need to give them back. They probably wasted their whole lives fighting for our freedom and for us to be where we're at today. So we try to offer them that space where they can gather and we can see what kind of support we can offer them and what they need to do as well for the other ones who are currently imprisoned as well in different countries around the world. We had speakers from Venezuela, we had some from Rwanda, from Russia, from other countries as well. So we're trying to offer them that kind of space for them to feel inspired and to feel free enough also to express their voices.
So maybe this is a good segue for me to ask you to maybe talk to us and the audience about the environment in which you operate in Sudan as a foundation. But as a foundation, you are part of a broader civil society. So what does civil society look like? in Sudan, and what has been your experiences operating as a foundation within that socio-political, cultural, economic environment?
It's very difficult for the foundation itself, for the initiative itself, to function within the context of Sudan right now. So the first conference was held in Vienna. That's where we tried to bring those freedom fighters from the continent itself, because I don't see Sudan is going to be a space that would allow us to have such an initiative. I think it's a threat for them, because speaking also of the revolution that happened in 2019, right? There were we had a number of political prisoners that they're still finding their dead bodies still now. So I think it wasn't, and it will never be a safe space for us to function and to work on our initiative back in Sudan. And right now we're still trying to figure out where we're going to hold it this year. So the first conference happened in October last year, and now this year we're planning as well to hold it either in Vienna, or we're going to see where else it's going to happen. But we're also trying to think of the safety of those speakers that we have. Because if some of them are from within the continent, we never know what's going to happen. So we try to take them to a safer spot where they can actually attend and be as free and feel safe.
There was a special moment on day one of the conference where you stood up, you were saying something, and then Nyamal came through, and the two of you just stood there for quite some time, and the entire conference stood up in solidarity with you. What was that moment? What did that moment symbolize, and what was it all about? Especially for people that did not know what's going on between Sudan and South Sudan. And the two of you just grabbed that moment, and it was just magnificent.
I think I've always found Sudan, my own country, as a very complex country growing up there. Speaking of, there is actually racism within Sudan, and I think as a person coming from Darfur and my sisters was coming from South Sudan, we do understand each other a lot. And even the minute, I still remember our colleague Mahmoud, he's the one who was like, I want you to meet someone. And that was one of the most beautiful moments, because I didn't expect it. I just asked her, like, where are you from? And she was like, Junub, like, South Sudan in Arabic. And we just embraced that moment. We hugged each other, because there's a feeling that we know we understand each other. I think she had the feeling that I do, because I think she's been also through difficult situations with some Sudanese that they didn't even say sorry for what's happening in South Sudan. But that moment felt like a changing moment in my life, knowing that even though we are separated, we're no longer the one country, but we are still connected in our souls. And I think we by being in this space, like, I never thought, like, I'm going to meet her and we're going to connect. But I'm so grateful right now for this space, for offering me this. And I think it's a moment that I will never forget. And I just want to see where this goes. But we both embraced that moment in a very beautiful setting.
So talking about the moment, it's your first time attending the Baraza.
Yes.
What has it been like? What are some of the things that you are living with? Because today is the last day of the conference. I just want to hear your experiences and the reflections on attending the Baraza for the first time. Others have been here before, they attended the first one, but you are attending for the first one, the moment.
I still remember the moment when I didn't hear of the Baraza before. I have a colleague of mine, he was the one who told me, like, there's this event. And I was coming with, like, blindfolded eyes, because you never know what to expect, you never know what's going to happen. And I think it's a very normal, like, for human beings to feel kind of having this mix of feelings of, like, okay, how is this going to be? Am I going to imagine how am I going to be there, if I'm going to connect, if I'm going to find the kind of support that we're trying to offer and get at the same time. But I think it's been so far a very great experience. The minute we came, we just connected. Like, it felt like everyone already, and even though, like, I saw people already knew each other, like you said, they've been probably within the Baraza like for years, but for me, as the first time, I just connected with everyone. And I think there are some initiatives that we might see how we can put them together and just, like, work and see how it goes. So I think it's really a great experience to be here. And I really believe that it has a great future, like, coming ahead, because it's not easy to gather. I mean, I see a lot of amazing people in there with great experiences, with amazing social movements that are working within the continent. And I think if we all work together, then definitely we're bringing Africa together. And that is definitely the goal. As they said before, like, there should be no borders. And this is already the step for breaking those borders. And so
what are some of the themes that have really stood out for you, especially those that relate to your foundation, but maybe broadly to South Sudanese social movements?
I think yesterday when we had the breakout session about the protection of human rights defenders, that really stood out for me because most of the people that were there, they were human rights defenders, and they've been through things. When they put it on the table out there, it just made me see that there is a lot of human rights violations that are happening. And it made me question myself, what is it that we're not doing right still? Or maybe we're doing right, but it's not enough. Or maybe we're doing enough, but we're not being allowed to proceed and go further. So I think that really stood out for me, and it made me realize that within the continent, there's a lot of violations that are happening because of the dictators that are around, and we need to work and see how we can put an end to these violations that are happening. I mean, limiting freedoms of people is just not an easy thing, and we need to set them free.
So back to the foundation, what are some of the challenges that you are currently facing? I mean, throughout the 3 days, we've been hearing issues to do with funding, to do with the political and shrinking space, to do with collective agency, among others. But those are broad patterns. But specifically to you operating in Sudan, what are some of the specific challenges that your foundation is currently facing? And vice versa, what are also some of the opportunities that you see and you are ready to seize?
I think within the functioning of the initiative, we always face legal, authorizations from departments, and they try to make it impossible as much as possible. So these are the challenges that we're facing: legal assistance, and even dealing with government offices. Is whenever they hear the topic of of the initiative, then why is it happening, and for what exactly? For them, that's already a threat. This is, I think, the only thing that we're really trying to figure out on how we can work further and find the right place. But also the funding is an issue as well.
And what are the aspirations going forward? What is the future of the foundation? What are your hopes as a young person leading these initiatives?
The hope is that we help as many of those freedom fighters as possible, get them together, and even we are trying to have more in-prison visits as well. That's not going to be an easy. That might be also one of the challenges. Going back to your question as well. That's not going to be an easy thing. But our aspiration is that we become an initiative that is on the ground helping. Not only we speak about it like this is a problem that's happening, we're also looking for actions that we can move forward with it. And I think another aspiration that I really look forward to is that we need to keep our hopes on the thriving of democracy defenders and the changes that they can actually bring. If they are a threat to dictators in all their countries, then there must be something that's being done right.
I think one of the themes that is, for me, powerful in Barazas is the issue of solidarity. Solidarity at a national level, community level, but also cross-country and multi-country solidarities. And having been in this space, are you seeing any possibilities of forging solidarities between Sudan and other countries, not just neighboring countries, but countries across the continent and beyond?
It's absolutely possible. The minute that people stood up for that solidarity moment when I started talking about Sudan, it already gave me that amount of hope. And even right now, within the recent movement that we were right now talking about the movements, and just went out and talked about how the revolution went, and this is the kind of solidarity that I'm sure is going to happen. That was already a starting, let's say, the bright light at the end of the tunnel that we always speak of. Hagar,
thank you so much for making the time. Thank you for joining us to talk about your foundation, to talk about the situation in Sudan, but also to talk about the aspirations of a young person who has set up this foundation, looking into the possibilities that lie ahead. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. That was Hagar Eissa, the founder of Echoes of Freedom, but now Voices of Freedom, a foundation that is based in Sudan, working with political prisoners. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the CAPSI podcast series, Conversations on African Philanthropy.